Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm your host and GM, Mitch Broesder. You can find me on Twitter over at MagnesiumB. You can find the show over on Twitter at Standard Risky. And you also find us all over on the show's Discord, where we're chatting about the show, sharing some behind-the-scenes stuff, inspiration images. I'm working on getting the active character sheets for everybody uploaded there as well, so keep your eyes peeled. Find a link to that, again, in the show notes. With me today, got Pete Loftus.
Hey, I'm Pete. I'm on Twitter at Chip Enjoyer. I'm also in the Discord quite a bit, so if you're listening, come and say hey.
We got Malcolm Hall here tonight.
Hey, on X at Horde Scrum. I've actually posted it a couple times recently.
Got a couple posts out there, so
yeah, check them out. I got some important questions I'm asking over there.
We've also got Timothy Manns with us today.
Hi, friends. If you wanted to check me out, you can go to Axe Hoarder on both Instagram and Twitter. There's going to be very little on both things, but you can look at what I have offered in the past.
If you like the music in the show, you want to find some more tunes, there is a link in the show notes to Tim's Bandcamp.
You can also search Axe Hoarder Bandcamp. Both pages that come up will be mine. The first, when I was playing it as a band and not just a solo project, we could not remember the password to that, so I was locked out of that. And I had to start Axe Hoarder 2 as my personal page.
It's a sequel.
You're not being tricked.
Keep an eye out for Risky Standard 2.
Risky Standard 2, when we forget the password to our podcast host. And what's up? Yeah, today we are continuing our game of Beam Saber by Austin Ramsey. As always, you can find Beam Saber over on Austin's itch.io page. Today we are resuming our campaign of Beam Saber. We're coming fresh off of a downtime. The squad had just returned back from their last mission and at the Lost Crown Saloon. And we ended with the clarion call to return back to Low Tower and meet with your handler Troubadour and get the lowdown on your next mission, kind of building off of all of the information you were able to steal from Sellers Montag's personal network device. And so, yeah, I think probably that's where we're going to kind of zoom back in, right, is, maybe skip the preamble a little bit. I think maybe we come in with the squad in the briefing room, right? The dimly lit cavernous space, the massive holographic projector table in the center. Troubadour there in their usual get-up, right? Full body covering, the heavy gloves, the tactical poncho, the ever-shifting scatter mask. But they seem tired. They seem worn out. I think you get the sense, I think, as everyone is kind of settling at the table and the holographic projector starting to cycle through. They've been probably working at this and sifting through this information that you recovered from Sellers Montag, probably about a week, say, since the last mission this has been.
Yeah. So you keep saying Troubadour looks kind of haggard, right?
Yeah, worn out, like body language wise. I think their shoulders slumped. I think kind of just like a slowness to some of their motions. I think in much the same way that I'm currently shuffling through my notes, trying to figure out where to dive in at. I think Troubadour is kind of doing the same, right? Fiction begets reality and vice versa. They've been burning, the candle at both ends. But I think, maybe it's the opening image here, right, is one we've seen before. It's the grainy holographic projection of the Luctorian Harlow Shellspade's face, right? This kind of thin, gawky, dark-haired Luctorian, the curved ram horns, glasses. Last you all saw Harlow Shellspade was in the Meridian freight yards, right? Just so, maybe this is maybe a good recap before we dive right into this briefing, right? Harlow Shellspade is the Grenfield scientist who was attempting to defect with a data cache to another Commonwealth company, Pennyroyal Armigers, the weapons manufacturer. And while you were able to record his conversation with the representative from Pennyroyal, you were unable to secure him, and you got his data cache, but you have not been able to crack into the data cache because it is biometrically encrypted. You need Shellspade's biometric signature to be able to break into this data cache that has all of the information about Grenfield's sort of ongoing secret project that he was hoping to sell to their competitor. And so, I think, we start, the holographic projecting table is showing this kind of, rotating 3D image of Shellspade's face, right? Probably like his like employee ID hologram or whatever. Black Star Constellation. With Seldom Rowe's help, I've been combing through the personal network device that you delivered to me at our last meeting. We've been able to ascertain that Harlow Shellspade was returned to Grenfield after the incident at Meridian Freight Yards, and in the time since has been held in a covert Grenfield facility referred to internally as Installation Indigo. From Montag's messages and records, it appears that he's been interrogated about his attempted betrayal and forced to continue work on Grenfield's research concerning the orichalcum lattice that we saw. Click on the projector and we see maps of Imber overlaid with other images of this lattice, right? This thing that Shellspade has been looking into, this sort of strangely ordered network or kind of like a web of orichalcum veins deep under the surface of Imber, the thing that Grenfield has been working on. From Montag's records, it appears that this project, this Grenfield program, is referred to as the Nexus Initiative. From what we've been able to tell, it is currently Grenfield's most protected secret, classified and kept under wraps from most of its staff on the planet. It appears that Grenfield is attempting to keep the nature and details of this project secret even from the other Commonwealth organizations and companies on Imber, most especially Heritage Mercantile. And we would know, Heritage, we have not seen a lot because we have been in Coronatus, this independent territory, but Heritage is the largest and most powerful Commonwealth company on Imber, and they are responsible for administering the Luctorian Commonwealth's Charter of Development, right? Is like a thing that gives them a kind of a legal authority, this kind of quasi-representative status. The Heritage is not the Commonwealth government, but is basically permitted to act as such on Imber as they kind of develop the planet. Thinking very much here about things like the East India Company. I think we've talked about as like an inspiration, right? These sort of private forces that become like colonizing arms of government.
We encountered them somewhere else, right? Were they running the freight yard?
We saw advertisements for them floating on billboards above the freight yard, right? We've seen their presence, and it's like one of those things where, we're not a visual medium, and so it's hard to always hit this note. But like if we were watching the miniseries, right, of Risky Standards Season 1, we would see this kind of, Baroque filigreed H stamped on like equipment, on buildings, like on things everywhere, right? Like Heritage's presence is, I think, in some ways so pervasive on the planet that it becomes like background static in a way. And I think Troubadour continues, right? Whatever its exact nature, it seems that Grenfield believes the success of their Nexus initiative could change the company's fortunes within the Commonwealth, perhaps lend them control of the Charter of Development for Imber. And I think a flicker through the holographic table again. We are looking now at an aerial image, right? It is a mountain in kind of like a hilly region with, I think, even from this aerial view, we can see this mountain is or was a mine. There are, it has been dug out in places. We can see a large entrance shaft kind of at its base in one area. Installation Indigo, the facility where Shellspade is being held, is located in the remains of a mine predating the Commonwealth's presence on Imber, a place called Brago's Perch. We don't have a lot of details about the facility itself. We're working mostly off of Montag's messages with other Grenfield associates. There's not a lot. I think that's the thing in general that we're working off here. There's not a lot of like, the thing that you got has messages. It doesn't have like security plans for this place.
Mm-hmm.
It appears that Grenfield has enlisted the help of the Marked Band, a Commonwealth mercenary company consisting of conscripted prisoners to guard the facility while Shellspade is held there. And I think, Troubadour looks to you, Desmond. Desmond, your former colleague, Butte Halloran, is expected to be there commanding the security force. I suspect asking you not to try and settle your score will be a fool's errand, but I must emphasize the importance of this mission. Revenge can happen any day. This might be the only chance we have at getting a hold of Shellspade and denying his expertise to the Commonwealth.
This might be my only chance to see Butte again. You ever think of that?
Seldom has done us the favor of using Harlow's own encryption device to reverse engineer a portable biometric scanner. Maybe they take like a cloth off of like a bulky piece of technology on the table. I imagine it looks kind of like a pistol, but the end of it is kind of like instead of like a regular barrel, it's like conical, flared out, and in the center is this kind of glass ocular sensor. The mission is simple. You need to infiltrate Installation Indigo and use this scanner to obtain Shellspade's biometric data. A 30-second scan, and we'll have all the information we need to be able to crack the encryption on this data cache and discover the truth of what Grenfield's been digging into on Ember.
How do we do it? How's this work?
And I think, Troubadour, the many faces of the scatter mask smile. They look at you, Cardo. You point and pull the trigger. That's all.
Oh, so real easy. All right.
A 30-second scan. This thing will capture all of Shellspade's biometric data and be able to replicate it for the scanner on the data cache. The only caveat here, he needs to be alive while you scan it. If he's dead, there's no biometric data to copy in the first place.
What's the range on it?
A meter, right? It is a close range thing. You need to be next to him to use this. This is not like a long distance item. You need to be right up and close next to him to be able to scan him with it. That's our primary objective. If we can get his biometric data, we can break into the data cache. We can learn exactly what it is Grenfield has discovered here on Ember, and perhaps use that information to sway the tide of the war itself. However, ideally, your secondary objective, if you can bring back Shellspade himself, you'll have recovered a valuable potential asset for the Ring and denied it to Grenfield and the Commonwealth at large.
And this facility, I know we have some data. What does it show? This is a research facility where they're also working on the lattice itself, or this is fellow detainees? Maybe the data's inconclusive on that.
Yeah, right. That is the kind of the problem. I think Troubadour tells you. I think I think based on what they've been able to glean from the personal network device, there is a research function at this facility, right? From what we've seen in Montag's messages, Shellspade is being forced to continue his work, which seems to imply that the facility itself is equipped to allow that.
Okay.
I'll be very honest with you, Black Star Constellation. We don't know a lot. I fear that we're sending you into a very dangerous situation, ill-equipped. But time is of the essence. We don't know how long they'll have Shellspade there. We don't know how long they'll keep him alive. If they feel that he's outlived his usefulness, it's entirely possible they will decide to dispose of him. Now is the time to act. As such, there are no rules of engagement here. Do what you need to do. Get Shellspade's biometric data. If at all possible, bring him back with you. But get that data. Things are happening on Ember. Our success at Farron's Bluff delayed the Concordat's movements through the Bleached Plain, but it did not stop them. I'm continuing to receive reports of Concordat troop movements all across the Bleached Plain and the Cosmeo Ridge to the north of it. The Beehive is stirring.
Moving where?
They're building up a presence in the Bleached Plain, which, as we know, borders the Cold Hearth Chaparral, the home base of the Ring, the home to the only free city on Ember. It seems inevitable that they will make a strike against us. And similarly, troops are lining up on the eastern borders of the Cosmeo Ridge, pressing against the Commonwealth's borders. The Commonwealth itself, its factories, doubling, in some cases tripling output of weapons and arms. They likely have all the same information that we do. They are preparing for whatever the Concordat's next move is.
Does the Concordat, they know about our boy Shellspade? Are we going to have to contend with any of that on this mission? Do they know about the lattice? Are we going to have another shining knight show up out of nowhere?
I would love to tell you no, Carta. We haven't picked anything up on it on the chatter, but As you might remember, we were unable to obtain the Concordat comm codes at Farron's Bluff. Much of their communication is still encrypted to us. What they know is a mystery. What their plans are to us, a mystery. Right now, there's nothing to indicate that we'll see them at Installation Indigo, or that they know at all about its existence, or about Shellspade's existence. But there's so much we don't know. What I can tell you is this. The conflict on Imber has been in a lull, a quiet period. And I'm worried, not just worried, I am certain that is about to end. But if we can figure out what Grenfield is up to, what this lattice implies, what leverage it might give us, it might be the tool we can use to turn the tide here on Imber.
All right, well, Troubadour, you said that we'd be going in maybe unprepared or ill-prepared, but we do have giant robots.
I'm afraid that they probably do as well.
Touché.
And I would say also, this is a moment, I'm just going to say this, because the squad might not be aware of this, and Troubadour's not aware of this either. But it is worth saying, Desmond has a full dossier of info on the marked band.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like a resource that you will be able to use to gather info as we go forward in this session. I just wanted to mark that as a thing that we know.
Oh, I didn't forget. But they don't know that I know.
Correct.
Yeah, but they're about to find out.
I think Rhodes is just growing irritated the longer that Troubadour is talking. And I think he kind of scoffs when Troubadour says, again, we don't know, right? We don't know. We don't know. He's like, you don't know. This is 6 months of you cracking a biometric device that puts us in the same place. I'm glad Seldom's here. We know about as little as we did before. This is another action where we're going in unprepared. I don't know how many more suicide missions I can front you, Troubadour.
If I didn't think you could do the job, I wouldn't send you. I'd find someone who could.
I'll remind you, you are also a volunteer, though you volunteered to give orders.
And I think you can just see, right? They sit back, and the reply doesn't come. They let that hang in the air.
Good luck. See you on the other side. I think he walks away. Going to go prepare on his own, because I think running the numbers back, Ring intelligence seems a bit flawed to me, and I think Rhodes is starting to feel like there's a lot of, I'm a little suspect of Troubadour, to be honest. I think it's kind of been like a growing tide, but this sounds a bit fishy to Rhodes. So I think he's going to take a beat here and try and drum up some more information, since I think we're operating on more than the Ring intelligence is.
So yeah, I think maybe this is the moment the briefing kind of starts to break up, right? And we can kind of start to switch over to our gathering information phase of the session. But before that happens, I think, as Rhodes storms out, Troubadour, starts to stand up as well, and they're collecting a sheaf of documents. And they look at you, Carta, and they say, Carta, do you have a moment? There's something I'd like to discuss with you before we all go our separate ways.
Yeah, I'll look through the information I got from working with Seldom. Maybe there's something I can give Rhodes to, toss some water on that growing fire. But yeah, what's up?
Once Desmond and Rhodes have both left, Troubadour, I think, reaches inside there, within the confines of this poncho, and I think withdraws a heavy pistol and lays it on the table. And they look at you, Carta, and they say,
"You know what to do."
Yeah,
right. Well, you know what they? Yeah, they say, "Listen, Carta, bringing Shellspade back would be immensely valuable for our cause. But by the same turn, letting the Commonwealth continue to have access to his expertise would be a great blow to our work. Your primary objective is to retrieve his biometric data. Your secondary objective, to bring back Shellspade himself. But if you cannot fulfill that secondary objective, if you can't get Shellspade out of there, I need you to make sure that the Commonwealth does not continue to have access to him. Do you understand?"
Yeah, I understand. The man works for Grenfield. I don't think he knows what a mistake that was. I know what I got to do. At the end of the day, I'm not worried about him. He's another Grenfield employee to put in the ground. We'll bury him. If that's what it comes to, there won't be a moment, not one moment of hesitation. Picks it up, the gun, tucks it in the back of his waistband and goes, "I know you know that."
And I think they say, Rhodes and Desmond are both caught up. They have other fights occupying them, distracting them. I'm putting my faith in you. And they put a hand on your shoulder. Now go do what needs to be done. And I think we probably cut out there.
I think that, as Troubadour and Carter are talking, I think Rhodes like skulks off to Desmond's like research room with your board of the Belfry boys. And I think Rhodes is like probably arms kind of crossed behind him. I think just like looking over the board and the intelligence you've gathered there, kind of waiting for you to show up, which presumably you do, I guess.
No, actually, I don't. I don't show up.
Yeah, I'm there for 2-3 hours, kind of brooding cinematically. But when I think you do arrive, I don't know, like I think it's sort of quiet. And I think Rhodes would ask, like, Des, can I ask you something?
You just did, but yes.
What do you make of Troubadour?
I don't really know. I think that's kind of the point, Rhodes.
Well,
we're not supposed to know anything.
It's not always like that. I get that this is a special circumstance. This is a Black Ops group. I understand the need for security, but something's starting to feel a bit off. When I run the tapes back, the last 3 missions we were sent on ended in an ambush.
What are you trying to say?
That we're heading into our next one.
Do you think Troubadour's setting us up?
How many other Ring intelligence contacts have reached out to you?
No, none, I guess, actually. You saying Troubadour isn't really with the Ring at all?
I don't know. I mean, all we know are Seldom Row, and there was a hubbub here a little while ago. I just want to keep our guard up.
Seldom Row gives me the creeps. I'm going to be completely honest with you, Rhodes.
That's not uncommon. The apparatus is a bit strange. By its nature, I think the Ring keeps it a bit under wraps. Also, out of game, Carter, have you told anybody about Seneschal?
I don't think so.
Seneschal.
The other sort of Ring spy master who kind of captured you and held you in a debriefing, the kind of professor-esque character.
Mycroft Holmes kind of motherfucker.
Right.
In my mind. Seneschal. No, I haven't.
Right, we didn't talk about that. Okay, then I think back in the room, right, like the scatter mask gives me a little pause. First couple of interactions I understand. 4 or 5 missions where we risk our life. Have a couple brushes with death and all this anonymity seems a bit strange. Then don't get me wrong, I'm not deserting. I just don't want to overextend our welcome. We're supposed to be a collective. It's not just one decision top down. Just saying, stay sharp.
I think you're a little bit I think you're being a little paranoid right now.
Well,
And
of course I am.
I'm new to the Ring. I didn't know that there was so much paranoia. I thought that things were as transparent as they needed to be in this sector of what we're doing in our line of work. But if you're telling me to be concerned, I'll be concerned.
This is a war on 2 fronts, Desmond. The Ring's losing, but we're not.
I think Carta kind of joins the tail end of this maybe for a second and just goes, what is knowing what their face look like going to do?
We don't know.
You're going to trust them more just because you can see their face?
I don't trust them a whole lot right now.
And their face is going to make it a lot better.
If I'm supposed to not... I mean, if it's just a member of the Ring, then what's the problem?
I don't know. I think you should know more than either of us, that it is bigger than us. And there are going to be things we don't know. The apparatus, I'm just learning, but there is so much information that it's going for. And maybe it is for the best. I don't know. I promise you, other people know about this. We are not alone. I was questioned about it the other day.
By who?
What?
What do you mean?
I didn't want anyone to worry. It didn't seem like an issue and nothing really came of it. But another Ring member, another person in a scattered mask, asked me some questions about our operations. I didn't tell him anything.
What?
I didn't give anything up.
This is exactly my point. We don't know who these people are.
You're probably going to tell us you saw his face next, too, huh?
No.
You did.
Yeah, you did.
I did? I saw his face?
yeah. That guy took his mask off immediately.
I was setting you up, yeah.
Oh, shit. Fuck. Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Been a while.
I did.
You saw his face?
Yeah.
And did you recognize him?
No.
Seems a bit weird then.
There's a lot of faces I don't recognize. We might not be the most powerful organization, but we're still a big one and we're growing. That's the work we're doing here, too. I'm just saying, We've been sent into some places that have not been the best, but we haven't been sent to be killed. And if that was the point of this mission, we would have been ambushed in a fashion we wouldn't have even seen coming. They would have walked up behind us and we would have been done for. You don't give someone like that a fighting chance. I just don't think that that's the situation.
All right, then. On to the task at hand. I think Rhodes is probably like biting his tongue a little bit here. The like opportunity to like lecture Carta about being too young for this or the newest member of the ring is like right at the surface, and I don't think I'm going to pick on it because I know that it's not going to help anything here. Like this is like something is a bit off here. Like Rhodes has kind of just been put into a couple of pretty close brushes with death. Guards up. I think things are a bit funny to him, but regardless, like it's like, all right, well, we have a job to do, right?
So yeah, I think maybe, before we kind of dive into like the gathering info, prepping our like engagement role portion of the session, just want to like go down the line real quick and kind of just restate the basic facts so we all have them in our heads before we start like asking questions and gathering info. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So just basics again. Harlow Shellspade, the Grenfield defector, is being held in an off-the-grid facility called Installation Indigo, located somewhere inside the remnants of an out-of-commission orichalcum mining facility, inside a mountain called Brago's Perch. And your mission objective here, right? Your primary objective is to perform a biometric scan on Shellspade using the scanner provided to you by Seldom Row. Your secondary objective, to extract Shellspade from Installation Indigo and return him to Low Tower. And there are no rules of engagement here, right? Except for the one that Carta has been given, which is that if Shellspade can't be rescued, he is to be executed after retrieving the biometric scan. And past that, yeah, that's kind of the basics, right? You've got a little bit of information here that you can dig through, the stuff that's been pulled from Sellers Montag's personal network device. You have Desmond's already existing, kind of completed dossier on the marked band and their members and capabilities. And, there's like some more like basics here, right? I think we didn't cover this in the briefing right now, but I think we know this mine, Brago's Perch, I think, putting it on the map, right, it is several days travel eastward from Coronatus. It is kind of on the border between the independent zone surrounding Coronatus and the kind of beginning of the orichalcum-rich region controlled by the Commonwealth, referred to as alternatively as either the Gilded Hills or the Blasted Hills, kind of like where the most of the Commonwealth's like orichalcum mining takes place. But past that, yeah, I think, you don't, like, as Troubadour said, you don't have a ton to go on here besides the fact that you know physically where Shellspade is supposed to be and you know what you're supposed to do. You know who's guarding him. But beyond that, for all the help that Montag's device did give you, it gave you these hard details, a lot of the specifics are still missing.
And you said this is like an old mine. It's not like there's not anyone around who would have worked it when it was a full operating.
No, I think that this mine, I think that, this is in the dossier. You can find this without having to gather info. This mine predates the kind of like full-scale Commonwealth arrival on Ember, right? It was operated and probably fell out of use before the Commonwealth even really had fully kind of established itself as a force on the planet. It was operated as like an independent mine by some group of prospectors, like centuries ago, probably. It is like old, which is part of the reason it's been, right? Like the reason they're using it is because it is a disused mining facility.
Well, I guess, is there any knowledge that we have about whether like, are there checkpoints like bordering the Gilded/Blasted Hills? Like,
yeah, I guess that's kind of my question too. Is
there like a
Area 51 secure location?
Get through a transporter gate, or
is there a drone?
So I think, based on what you would know, this, like looking at the map and everything, this particular, facility is kind of located right on the edge of that region and is, I think, again, intentionally here, right? Kind of outside of the actual kind of like Commonwealth militarized zone. It is in this kind of kind of quasi no man's land of independent territory. This stretch, I think there's this kind of stretch in the center where there used to be a lot of these like little thriving like mining towns and places like that have all been kind of driven to extinction or emptied out by the ravages of the war. And so I think in terms of getting close to it, you are not necessarily passing directly into Commonwealth territory. I don't think you'll have to like evade a checkpoint to get to the region that it's at. Beyond that, whether there are particular defenses near it or, any kind of like observation force at the mine itself, that is the stuff for gathering info one way or another.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was digging through some notes. I think this is like back in maybe as we were planning for the Lost Crown.
Yeah.
One of the things that we got in intelligence with the Mark Band was operating out of an old jail in a town called Sawdust.
Yes.
Is this same area?
Sawdust is similarly located inside this kind. It is one of these ghost towns that has been kind of cleared out by the war. They are not like they're not within like spitting distance of each other, but yeah, they're definitely in proximity.
Okay.
Maybe another reason that the Marked Band is providing the security, right, is a certain kind of geographical closeness, and also worth saying again about the Marked Band, because this is all stuff Desmond discovered. The Marked Band is a mercenary company, and the vast majority of its actual membership, like its the mercenaries themselves, the fighters, the pilots, are all conscripted prisoners from Commonwealth prisons who have basically been given a deal, right? Serve in this military company for, X number of years or X number of missions to get, Y amount of time reduced off your sentence. You learned this specifically about Butte, right? Butte was arrested and put into a Commonwealth prison for killing someone in a bar brawl and was given the offer, right? Come work for the Marked Band and work time off your sentence, earn your freedom. And so there's a certain disposability to some of these mercenaries that is maybe attractive to Grenfield. I think it's like a logical deduction you might make.
I'm making a note to make fun of Butte Halloran for going from prison to prison guard.
Yes, certainly no prisoners conscripted into a wartime service in this squad.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, the ring wouldn't do something like that. We're the
Not
good guys.
conscripted.
Yeah.
True. Given the choice.
So I think as we're kind of like poring over this intelligence, I can't find my notes with all their names. So if they're all there from the Marked Band, I think Rhodes would say to, the two of you as we're all kind of looking at this, like, what about Pennyroyal?
Maybe they cut their losses?
You don't think they're still interested in a deal?
I don't know. Maybe the confrontation in time is...
Who was that woman?
Oh, at the
freight yard.
That was a woman named Miranda Vector, who was like a
she had that cool armored Rolls Royce.
Yeah, and she was kind of like some kind of like headhunter fixer for Pennyroyal. But I don't think you ever got much more information about her after that.
Well, if it took us this long to get the information with the special stuff that we've gathered over our missions, I mean, there's a possibility that they just don't know.
If what Troubadour says is true, the ring is operating at a disadvantage. We're about to be outgunned and outmaneuvered and very likely surrounded.
But we're not going to be outsmarted.
That's the hope, anyway. All right. I want to maybe make some dice rolls here, but do we want to talk about kind of like an overall? Do you guys have any ideas on how to get in here? I'm of like a couple of minds. I got a couple thoughts.
Yeah, I also had a couple thoughts. Is it worth going into Sawdust at all to see either of whether there's a swaying of, I mean, maybe not swaying people to join us, but like a coercing information out of people there that will help us get in or have better info before we straight attack it? I don't know. That was the only thing I thought, like whether it would be beneficial to go in there and see what information we get from people who are actively working with the Marked Band.
Right. I thought about Sawdust too, although Sawdust is like a designated like ghost town. So I don't know how many people are there, although I imagine that
there's nobody
people who
there, I think.
are still there might know something.
I mean, yeah. So what I would say, what you know about Sawdust, right? Just before we get too far into that, right? Is it's not like it is basically just like an empty town that this mercenary company is using as a base of operations.
It's
right?
not a
so
small
the only people
town.
there would be the marked band, right? Like, and probably mostly like like the managerial aspect of it, the administrative aspect of it, right? If the actual mercenaries are providing security for Installation Indigo right now, the people who are going to be at Sawdust are going to be like the marked band, like administrators, and maybe probably there's still some soldiers there as well, but it is not like a town anymore. It is a ghost town that happens to be a base of operations. That's where their FOB is, so to say.
So I have a couple of that's kind of what I imagined would be the reality at Sawdust, although I still think a ghost town is cool in a mech setting, and I do kind of want to see it. But aside from that,
I would say I think there probably is a and this is like another like you don't need to gather info. Brago's Perch, right? Like the mine there. There probably is like the remnants of a mining town nearby that I imagine is also emptied out, but like right? Like you probably not right next to it, but like like a mile or two off. There is, I think, probably the.
I mean, like how prisons have cities that are like around them because that's where people who work at
There, at one point in history, there was a town nearby that existed to provide service for the people working that mine. And I think that town has probably, I think, the preliminary research Troubadour has gathered can tell you that place is also a ghost town, right? But that is there, right? It is there's still structures there. It is still evident as like a place that existed.
Yeah. So there's one option there. I guess in terms of overall kind of engagement, I think there's maybe a version of this where we get arrested and taken to this facility. I don't know how that would happen, but that's kind of funny and fun to play out.
It's certainly a trope of our games that we've played in the past. Too.
Love getting arrested and having all of my things stripped off of me.
Yeah,
love getting things, all my weapons.
When did we
stripped
get
from me.
taken?
Maybe like
detention?
10 years ago, but yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
feel like
probably
we've done
true.
it before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is true. In this game, we haven't seen the inside of a jail cell. God willing,
I don't think this is a this is a prison.
It's not a jail. It's a research facility with it's a detention facility with some research capacity, right? Like this is like a locked down kind of facility.
Yeah, it's a covert off the grid facility, right? It is like it's Grenfield's.
It's like Grenfield's black site.
Yeah, basically, right? It's a Grenfield like secret lab, a Grenfield black site, right? I think again the reason, right, Troubadour doesn't have like a full dossier for you is because this place is like purposefully off the books, and even
allegedly,
yeah, like the things that you've gotten from Montag are those records were able to give you like the exact location and the fact that Shellspade is there and that it has the security force. But things like, the detailed security plans, the internal layout, I don't think that was in Montag's device, right? I think a lot of what you were working off of is like his messages to other people. And so those messages contain a lot of like key details. And I would still say you could still gather info to try and get more from the device, right? There's like a lot of data there, but I don't think that he was necessarily sending detailed blueprints all the time. Although who knows, maybe if you dig around in there you can find something. That would be the gather information role, I think, is to see what more you could possibly like scrape out of the PND.
I think now is the time I bring out my, whatever my legal box of information I have on the Mark Band, and I place it on the table and I go like, this is everything I have in the Mark Band. I'm sure that there's something useful in here. Like, I would like to know how many members of there are we expecting?
There's 9, right? There's 9 members total in the Mark Band.
I don't think you know that. Are you thinking of the Belfry Boys?
Yeah, you're thinking of the Belfry Boys. Yeah,
there were 7 of Belfry Boys, counting Desmond himself.
Yep.
But the Mark Band, just to reiterate, that Butte Halloran is, so far as we know, the only member of the Belfry Boys in the Mark Band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I have that information on the Mark Band that I got from.
Yeah. Desmond can tell you that right away. Yeah, Butte's the only member of the Belfry Boys in the Mark Band. But you could, if you wanted to roll a gather information to study, get more like detailed information about like the security capabilities and like forces of the marked band, that would be a great use of gathering info.
Yeah, I mean, I would also do the same thing with any of the information I got, or going through Sellers' things again with a little closer eye as to information we can find on that.
Worth also just stating here, as we're kind of like moving into this gathering information phase, you get +1 dice to gather information about the current or upcoming mission. Your eyes and ears are on the streets are always on the lookout for you because you guys have a loyal bar. So you will get +1 dice to gather information as you prep for this mission. And another thing I would say, just to keep in mind as we're kind of starting to do this, is like we can get a little fluid with time here as we move towards the engagement roll. If some of this gathering information is like taking place on site, like closer to the mountain and the facility, like that's also a thing we can do, you know what I mean? And we can kind of go back and forth as we need to on this. But does anybody have like a gather information they want to start with right out the gate?
Well, yeah, I guess just, again, going through Sellers or the information that we got from the personal network device and seeing if there's anything that I can find that specifically, whether it says mark band or not, about their security. Just like whether it is marked as to where it's going, or because he would be one of the few people that knows kind of about the black sites, especially like he would know about, Nexus and whatnot. If there's like stuff that says, I don't know, what kind of fool would have a thing that's like,
here's a list of our defenses.
Yeah, here's our black sites, and here are the people who control them. But if there's like any more that can be gathered from trying to put pieces together from whatever information can be gathered, I guess.
Yeah. So this sounds like a study to me, but I'm open to.
Yeah, it's probably just gonna be study.
So you start with 0 dice, but then you'll take 1 dice because of your squad upgrade, which will put you at 1 dice to start with on study, since you don't have any naturally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll just. Yeah. Well, I'll roll one then. Let's see. Rolling. It's a 3.
Okay. So yeah, unfortunately, 3 here, what you get is limited information, and it does appear that despite being more of like a nepo baby than a merit hire, Sellers Montag, it appears, still at least has enough good sense to not like attach like blueprint.jpg to his emails
in secret file.
Yeah.
It's better than most US politicians, I think.
Yeah. But you do get right. Maybe there is like maybe this is like in some of the like messages that are about the decision to bring the marked band on as like an on-site security force, right? Which is like, I think basically I don't have like the exact wording here, but I think the thing that you get right is that something to the effect of Montag saying that like up until this moment, Installation Indigo has been a relatively low security operation, relying on its concealed entrances and hidden nature within the Brago Perch mine to disguise its presence. But with the increased attention resulting from Subject Shellspade's attempted defection, it's become necessary to bring on manned security. And maybe there's like an invoice here, right? That like a marked band invoice, right? Which is like, it gives you that the facility itself is inside the mine. It's inside the mountain. That is confirmed here. And I think there's like invoices for like upgraded electronic security for physical entrances. There are going to be like high-tech locks on the actual like physical entrances into the building. And I think maybe, like part of this is like the marked band is also like, all right, it's like an invoice for, what is it? I'm trying to think of like the way this would be phrased, but it's like signal activated defensive applications and distributions. They have mined the area, or they've put a minefield in some of the areas surrounding the approach to the mountain, right? That has been part of like the marked band's kind of like heightening of the security process there. And so I think unlimited information, digging through Montag's stuff, you're able to gather, 1, it's inside the mountain, and that its entrances are concealed. Mm-hmm. 2, that the surrounding area has also been like trapped with, like smart sensor traps to deter any potential intruders. But past that, I think like the specifics of the security situation there, you don't get like a map of the facility. You don't know the shape of it. You know now for sure it's inside that mountain. But I think on a 1, that's about what, about probably what you're able to like glean. Those are the bits that Troubadour missed in their own like research.
Okay. Cool.
Is there any other research folks are doing? Any questions folks are asking? And all of this, of course, always aiming towards the final question we want to ask, which is, what's the engagement rule? How is this squad approaching the start of the mission?
I haven't quite figured that part out yet, but I have an idea for some information gathering. I want to try to figure out, like, I get that this is like a pre-colonial era or a Calcum mine, but given that there must be survey data on the mountain itself, right? Like on, any other connected shafts or other points of access. If there's anything else like in like some old drover records or anything in the area.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. How are you gathering information there? What's that look like? What's the move? I can see another study here.
I think it's probably study. I thought about sway, like I could maybe hit up some of the dust cutter folks. But I think I'm going to start like just kind of pouring through old records. Like maybe this is like some mercantile heritage, heritage mercantile, like old, I don't know, public records, right? Like of like surveying on the land.
You're doing like microfiche.
Yeah, this is like Imber City Hall. I'm going to the library.
Yeah. Right. Or like the University of Coronatus, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. UCor. And, probably, what? So you get an extra dice here because of your loyal bar thing.
Right.
There's like some kind of library assistant who comes to the sixth moon, who's able to get Rhodes like access to the library, right? Maybe that's how that dice gets reflected here.
Yeah. There's a cool page guy. Cool. Let me roll 2d6. Oh, it's a 6.
That's a 6. That is great information.
Nice. We got a hook up at Ucorn. Go try out.
Yeah, Ucorn.
Ucorn.
The Ucorn unicorns. Let's get horny. No, that's
no. Let me.
Show's over.
Yep. Well, that's a wrap on Risky Standard, everyone. It was nice while we had it. So yeah, 6 provides great information. So you're looking into like stuff about the mine and the structure of the mine itself, right?
I think that the angle I'm going to take on it is like about the mountain over the mines. I mean, I want to find out about the mine, but I also kind of want to learn a little more about the mountain.
Yeah, well, I think they're deeply intertwined, right? Because this was like not one of the earliest, but an early, orichalcum mine, right? From a different era of this planet's like history, even predating like the Chiropteran Empire's control of this region.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for many years a profitable, successful orichalcum mine. Probably Rhodes is able to find, I'd say like, it's called Brago's Perch because I think that there's like a really iconic kind of like rock shelf jutting out from the top of this mountain. It's a smaller mountain, and this is not like a towering peak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on whose book you're looking at, this might be considered a very large hill. But I think on the western side of the mountain, underneath that rock ledge, there is the central like shaft entrance into the mine, right? Fairly low to the ground. I think there's probably something in the history books about like a notable moment when like still like pre-Commonwealth, but as like the technology and the times are changing on Imber, I think they probably blasted the top of this mountain off at one point. Or at least partially, to take a different approach. And so I think that there is a secondary vertical shaft descending into the mine from the top of this perch, right?
So just running that back, like the old main entrance was underneath this iconic rock shelf, but it was blasted, and now it's like an elevator lift to go up and down?
So that main shaft was still there. That's still the main entrance. But there is, now there is a vertical shaft that was at some point put in, right? Maybe like there's something about like hauling stuff out, that it became easier to go up than it did to go out.
Okay.
But so there is, besides the main entrance to the west, there is a a secondary vertical shaft at the top of the perch. And I think, probably like you can see like this entire mountain is kind of honeycombed with tunnels and mine shafts, right? It is dried out. It was shut down because they were no longer able to like pull orichalcum out of it, right? It kind of shot out. And so I think you're probably able to find maps showing you like kind of the structure of like what the mine looked like, whatever, if anything has been built in there since. I don't think you have that.
Mm-hmm.
But on a 6, I think you can probably kind of like start to piece together like the most logical like place for where like, building into this thing would be, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there are like, several large chambers, on like the kind of ground level coming in from that western shaft, and like that kind of central area that got dug out. So I think that probably any kind of like building that would happen to get here would probably be going down into the mountain instead of going up. It's like too honeycombed going up to like structurally build anything.
So I think there's going to be deep.
Because I think that's the other thing, you're right, is like another reason that this mine was shut down, besides like, increasingly diminishing returns, is that it's been so like thoroughly picked through and honeycombed that it's kind of structurally unsafe to continue mining in, right? It is, there's a real risk here of cave-ins and collapses. And there probably were several notable cave-ins and collapses that kind of preceded its eventual shutdown.
So what I'm on a 6, maybe you can tell me this. What I'm looking for is essentially like a back door, right? Like, which is
That's
like
exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Maybe this was like an old entrance that's kind of caved in, not super commonly used anymore. Like, I'm imagining, the twisted like minecart rail track or something.
Yeah, I think on the southern side there was an attempt at a like secondary entrance shaft, right?
Mm-hmm.
As they were starting to go down and dig deeper into the lower mines. And I think that shaft was completed, but then abandoned for fears of like structural integrity and closed up. And I think because they couldn't get it wide enough to support the size they wanted to like bring in, like digging armors and things like that. So I think there is a like the main entrance is on the western side of the mountain, but on the southern side there were plans for a secondary entrance that was closed off and shut down. And I think Rhodes looking at the map could say like
that's our window.
If there was going to be another like easy way in, probably be using that shaft.
Okay, sick.
If only we had a small experimental style frame to get in there, in the small.
Omnidirectional, maybe?
Yeah, somebody who has operated heavy machinery in mines before.
I've got a thought also with this is this a kind of thing that we could tap into the ring network and like we could acquire a cohort being like an old, like a mining squad, like a set of like ring, like heavy industry laborers who can help us just like kind of clear this hole or something. Is that too loud? It's not very sneaky, is it?
It's not very sneaky.
I thought you were talking about like tunneling in from like way far away.
My other thought was, why don't we just like dig a hole?
And the cohorts, they're all French Canadian for some reason.
That actually makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like there's Quebecois in the ring.
I don't know why I thought that immediately. It's like, how do we dig a hole?
They're just smoking cigarettes the whole time.
Oh,
we should secede. We should secede. We should secede.
Shout out to all our Quebecois listeners.
Bless them. If you're Quebecois and if you want to exit Canada, hit that Discord. Let us know.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so I think that attempted entrance is probably our way in, whether that's like a kind of like rough-hewn shaft or something. We can pick our way through there. I'm imagining that's like probably the least secure, since they imagine it to be like at least like semi-caved in. I want to try to acquire an asset here.
I also had something I wanted to see if we could.
What's your idea?
Oh, I just wanted, especially since I found out that they did have a little bit of placing mine.
Yep.
See if I could get some sort of binocular or sensor or an addition to, to the semaphore that would be beneficial in helping us determine where mines might be placed, so that as we approach, we can do that with a little bit more knowledge of what is in front of us. So if we're crossing open distances or paths,
I was also thinking about getting airlifted, right? Like if there's like a minefield, could this be a like wingsuit parachute drop kind of thing?
Mechs
or something like that?
Does Des have any like gathering info he wants to do before we get into like asset stuff?
Yeah, I would like to see if I can find any information about the Mark Band, particularly how many of them are going to be there, how many are in the squad, And are there any other notable members that should be particularly worried about, I guess?
Yeah. So you have that dossier. I think this could be like studying that, or this could, I don't know, how are you working through that? What's the
study? It's got to be it. I have 0 pips in that.
So you'll still get a pip from your, the loyal bar is still going to be giving you 1 dice
okay.
here. So you'll start with 1 at least. Yeah, we have a lot of like dossiers and information. I guess it's a reading heavy week for the Black Star Constellation.
Yeah, we're hitting
Which
the
sucks.
books.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll start with 1 dice. You could always push yourself or anything if you wanted to, but otherwise, it's downtime. There's no consequences.
How can I push myself?
You can spend stress to do it, just the normal way.
Mm.
But again, there are no consequences here, so you can just roll the 1 if you want.
Okay, I'm just gonna roll the 1. I'm not gonna stress myself out about
that time to add stress into.
Yeah, stressing out over my homework that I have to do for war.
Yeah.
2. Yeah, nothing. Got no info.
You still get that's just limited information. You're still getting info. And so you're basically trying to get, like you said, more information about the marked bands, like capabilities, right? Like what they've got there.
Yeah.
A 1 to 3 provides limited information. So I don't think you're able to get the exact details of what is there. But you are able to see the overall field capability of the marked band, right? And so I think, the dossier that you have, and there's no guarantee that this dossier is perfectly up to date, or there aren't things that are not on this dossier that they have access to, right? That's what a 1 to 3 here means. But what you are able to, what your dossier does tell you, what you do know, is that the marked band currently fields the ability to launch and support 5 armors. They are in possession of 3 hatchet units. And the hatchet is we have not seen one of these on screen yet, but the hatchet is the kind of the grunt armor of the Commonwealth, right? Is like the kind of mass produced mechanized cavalry of the Luctorian Commonwealth. It is kind of like a real chunky tank of a mech.
That's Urzaku.
Typically equipped for short to mid-range engagements. And in addition to that, that they also have a Targe unit, which is a heavier, more heavily armored and more heavily equipped kind of upgrade to the hatchet, usually equipped with heavy munitions and, again, powerful melee capability. And on top of that, their final armor, they currently have an Arbalest unit. Arbalest is a less of a mech, less of an armor, and more of a deployable, semi-mobile artillery unit, capable of laying down intense, withering, long-range fire.
What'd you say it was called?
An Arbalest.
Arbalest.
And so, yeah, that is, I think that so there's 5 armors they have capable of deploying, like I just said. And in addition to the 5 pilots, I think, total, the marked band probably has at any given time 8 to 12 infantry field units they're capable of fielding and deploying in support of those armors.
Does it seem like from the not quite blueprints, but the material that we do have, does it seem like the inside of this mountain or a very large hill is open enough to maneuver these inside the facility, or would we expect these frames defending the exterior?
Almost certainly the exterior. I think that there is enough room that you could bring them into the main shaft of the mine, right? There were probably utility vehicles and mechs that were used as part of the mining operation. But mainly for clearing out main shafts. I think that the facility, just extrapolating from what you got in your gathering information, Pete, adding it up here, the actual infiltration of the facility proper will probably have to take place on foot.
Okay.
I think the actual facility itself, it would not, the shape and size of the mountain would not allow for a facility large enough to let mechs move through it. And so the armors will probably largely be used as external security. But past, so that, I think that is, on a limited role there, Desmond, I think that's probably kind of you know what they're capable of fielding and what they've been seen to field before. And I would even go so far as to add that you probably know that that Targe unit, this kind of big heavily armored one, you know that's what Butte has been seen piloting in the past.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But past that, I think, 1 of 3, I don't think you get much else there, right? I think, maybe, the only other thing I would add, right, is that, probably, this is, just, another note to keep in mind, right, is, the members of the marked band, the mercenaries themselves, right, are, I think, probably, have a reputation for being ferocious fighters, because in a real way, their freedom and livelihood depend on it, right? Their access to freedom from their prison sentences depends entirely on their performance as mercenaries. So I think they've kind of earned a reputation as being fairly ferocious, fairly fierce.
Okay, I think that was a lot of good information, actually.
It was.
Yeah. Are we ready to choose a tactic?
Can I acquire a couple assets here? Because I think, I guess we could always flash back.
Just a reminder, you don't have to act. And if there's an asset you want to acquire right now that will enable a certain kind of engagement role, that's on the table. Feel free to do that. But if you don't, you can always, flash back to have acquired an asset. If there's a thing during the mission where you're I really wish we had a thing that's not on our sheet, you can always flash back to having acquired that before you got there. So
Okay.
If there's a thing that you want to acquire right now that will enable a particular kind of engagement role, I'd say let's do that. But otherwise, it might make more sense to wait until you know the thing that you need to acquire it.
My thought on acquiring an asset, and I think that this is a general question about the technology of the world, was could we acquire something, and you can make whatever caveat you want, maybe it has to be assembled and takes a minute or something, or it's a small piece of equipment that has to be built. Would we have something I'm trying to think of a cool word, but a transporter, basically? It doesn't have to be we're going to warp back to Low Tower, but is there something that we could acquire that would let us get Shellspade out of this facility?
In terms of teleportation?
Maybe not quite teleport. Yeah, maybe, but I'm also thinking about the other thought in my head is a Fulton retrieval system, right? How can the ring support us in air? How do we get Shellspade out of here across a minefield manned by 5 armors?
Yeah, I think some kind of retrieval thing would make sense, but I think that also I think that would be...
That's something that we could flash back to pretty
exactly.
easily,
I think it's better served as a thing that
we'll see what happens. Yeah,
flash back to when you're getting him out of there versus spending your resources to acquire an asset right now, and then if Carta ends up having to put a round in his head, maybe that ends up being a waste. But I think, just to talk about the technology of the world for a second, I think teleportation is kind of probably not in the cards for the ring. I think that is
I was to say, that would be incredible, but...
That is you saw that mirrored portal that Hyacinth came through in the Lost Crown Saloon, and that was space magic. That's some weird... fundamental ability that the Concordat have the ability to perform, but it's not an everyday kind of thing. And even them doing it, right? Hyacinth doing that, I think on some level is terrifying and unusual, right? It displays a real high level grasp of fundamental ability.
So a displacer or something isn't really in the realm of possibility, right?
Not for the ring, I think. I think a mechanical retrieval system, like you said, like the Fulton, some kind of
What is that?
That is they use it a lot in Metal Gear Solid, but it was a real thing, but it's basically a
skyhook excavation?
It's a balloon that carries you up in the air and then a plane grabs you.
It's crazy, and it was a real thing. If you're listening at home, go and watch some early experimental videos of the Fulton retrieval system. It's a guy.
They do it in Batman.
Oh, they do it in Batman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they do it in Batman.
Okay, that's very interesting. That if we can get him to a point, excavation is a little bit out of... Okay, interesting.
Or you could also always go and watch the Chip and Ironicus Let's Play of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, where you'll see someone get Fulton lifted over and over and over and over and over and over again.
That's the best part about that game, is being able to pull the Fulton on pretty much anything.
Just everyone and everything, all the time, yeah. I think that in terms of retrieval, for sure, that's on the table, but I think the thing I kind of want to point our ship towards right now is the engagement roll. Like, how are we starting the mission? What is the approach here?
Cool. I think
Stealth.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be stealth.
I think this is the first. Is this the first stealth mission we've
I think so.
as
Our recon squad's first stealth mission? We're growing.
Oh, almost as if we're being set up to fail by some sort of unknown interlocutor, an ambiguous character. How interesting.
I love it. Let's just talk about it, right? As we have discussed before, and we'll discuss again, when we do our engagement roll, the thing that we are looking for is the detail. And of course, I somehow don't have any of that.
Oh, wait, sorry. I forgot to add this, that because Troubadour said that there are no, I don't know if it's too late for this. Troubadour said no rules of engagement. I'm going to suggest that we go in as doctors and use chemical weapons.
Yeah. And also target a medical transport unit while we're at it.
Yeah. Since because this is the one time we'll get to be able to do that, I think that, I don't know if it's too late to put that forward, but I think it's worth considering.
Dressed as doctors, attacking other doctors with chemical weapons.
Yes, exactly right. Your rotation year's coming to an end. It's a little medical humor for any RNs out there.
All the doctors listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot.
There might be at least one, I believe, actually. Okay. Stealth is for taking action undetected. The detail that we need is the point of infiltration. We can, maybe talk about what you're aiming for, what like the, how is the group trying to stealth in? What does that look like,
Are we stealthing in through that southern entrance, that trying to come in through a way that they view as closed or a non-access point?
We just think it's not heavily used.
Right, but is that? I guess that's what I mean. Is that our stealth entrance point? Getting to that, or do we need to go further back as to how we get to that?
No, I think that naming that as the point of infiltration, and I think probably we'll jump in, as the squad is making their way towards that, and there will probably be an obstacle, leading up to that moment.
Okay.
But I think that makes sense to me. If that's the approach you want to take, it's coming from instead of coming from the western approach, like the main road leading to the main entrance, you're coming from the hills to the south, headed towards that disused possible secondary entrance. If that's what you want to, that would work for me in terms of a detail. But I don't know if that's what you guys want to do.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's
what I want to do.
Yeah.
Then okay. So stealth. The detail here is the point of infiltration, which is trying to stealthily approach this southern entrance. Okay. Then I guess unless there's any other last minute things, we can do this engagement roll. We can talk through it.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I'm sure everything will go super good. You guys, of course, as always, you guys have the secret routes upgrade, which doesn't give you. It actually does. Gives you plus 1d to transport plans, not stealth plans. But I think in the fiction here, maybe does still apply in terms of you're charting out the kind of most stealthy approach you can take through the hills to the south, headed in, right? So let's talk through your engagement roll. As always, you start with 1 dice for plain old luck. And then we're going to ask, is the mission bold?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I won't say no. Take 1 dice. Is this mission especially complex?
I think it is.
So far, no.
No. We're going to find out, but...
It could be complex, and it might not be.
I mean, right now it seems kind of simple to me, right? Sneak in, grab the guy, get out. What could go wrong?
That's true.
So you're going to have 2 dice so far. Does the mission exploit the target's vulnerabilities?
Yeah, if we have an entrance that they maybe don't think is in use, that is a bit of an exploitation. They don't know that we've maybe even gathered this information since,
I don't think they're expecting us, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So take 1 more dice. That puts you at 3. Is the mission's tactic ineffective against the target? I don't think so. So you're still at 3 dice so far. Is the squad receiving external support for this mission? I don't think we've declared any yet, but if anyone has an argument for someone helping that they want to try and pull in here, I'm open to hear it.
I think this doesn't have to be today, but I really want to flesh out a ring support squad that is a transit focused squad.
They got the guy with the helicopter, the guy with the train, the guy,
So I would say, you guys do have one level up that we have not assigned yet. I know we were talking about taking the synchronized ability, possibly. That level up could also always be used to gain a new cohort. And that cohort could be a fire team of rovers who are drivers, astronauts, urban spelunkers, etc. They are, a fire team that are good at moving things and getting in and out of places. So something to think about. I think maybe before we start the mission next session, we should finalize what that squad upgrade is going to go towards. But for the moment, it sounds like we're saying no to extra support here, right?
Yeah, no.
So you're still at 3 dice. Is anyone interfering with the mission other than the target?
Not that we know of, right?
No.
Yeah, I think you're in the clear there. So we're still on 3. And then finally, are there other factors affecting the mission? And, it says +1 or -1 as those things benefit and hinder, respectively. I don't think so. I think right now, we're in the clear here. I think this is a 3 dice engagement roll for you guys. Pretty good, pretty clean. You've done your research as best you can. You're locked and loaded. You're ready to go. Desmond's just been listening to the Kill Bill theme on repeat for days. Yeah, that's 3d6 for the engagement roll. Who wants to roll the bones?
I think this should be you, Des.
All right. 4, 4, 3.
So on a 4 or a 5, that means that the mission is going to start with the squad in a risky position. So basically what that means is, as we start, as we're gonna, jump right into the action at the start of our next session, and the squad will not be in a controlled position. There will be an element of danger here. Things won't have fully broken bad yet either. It will not be a desperate position. So we'll be starting out with risky, which I think is a
kind of our sweet spot.
Yeah, a fair place to start for kind of going into a situation slightly unknown.
I'll take it.
I think when we pick back up next, we will see the squad attempting to infiltrate Installation Indigo and hopefully retrieve Harlow Shellspade and maybe settle up some debts with some old friends at the same time.
Yeehaw.
Nice.
As always, find us here on Risky Standard.
Give us a 5-star rating, even if you don't like the show. We need it. You
even
owe
if
us
you
this.
fucking hate the show.
Team dare you. I dare you. Are you a coward? Do it.
Thanks so much.